Nikolay Nikolayevich Voronov was a Soviet military leader, chief marshal of the artillery, and hero of the Soviet Union. He was commander of artillery forces of the Red Army from 1941 until 1950. Voronov commanded the Soviet artillery during the Battle of Stalingrad, and was the Stavka representative to various fronts during the Siege of Leningrad and the Battle of Kursk. He also fought in the Russian Civil War, the Polish-Soviet War and the Battle of Khalkin Gol, as well as serving as an advisor to the Spanish Republican Army during the Spanish Civil War. Early life. Nikolay Voronov was born on 5 May 1899 in St. Petersburg to Nikolay Terentьевich Voronov, a clerk, and Valentina Voronov. After the Revolution of 1905, Voronov's father became unemployed due to his Russian Social Democratic Labour Party sympathies. On 30 November 1908, his poverty-stricken mother committed suicide by taking cyanide. Voronov dropped out of a private school in 1914 due to financial problems and in 1915 got a job working as a secretary for an attorney. In the fall of 1916, his father was drafted. In 1917, Voronov passed an external degree examination. Military service. Russian Civil War and Polish-Soviet War. In March 1918, Voronov joined the Red Army. In the same year, he completed the 2nd Petrograd Artillery Courses, after which he was a platoon commander in a howitzer battalion in the Petrograd 2nd Battery. As part of the 15th Army, he fought in battles with Nikolay Yudenik's forces near Pskov. In 1919, Voronov joined the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Beginning in April 1920, Voronov fought in the Polish-Soviet War with the 83rd Regiment of the 10th Rifle Division. His battery was armed with the 76mm divisional gun M1902 instead of the 122mm howitzer M1910. On 17 August, Voronov received a severe concussion during a battle in the village of Josefov nad Wisla. When he regained consciousness, he found the Polish troops had captured the village. The injured Voronov attempted to escape on a horse, but was captured. During his 18 months of captivity, Voronov suffered from typhus and twice came close to having his leg amputated. He was repatriated at the end of the war in April 1921. Interwar Period. In the summer of 1922, Voronov was appointed commander of the howitzer battery of the 27th Rifle Division. In fall 1923, he attended the School of Higher Artillery Commanders and after graduation continued to serve with the 27th Rifle Division. During the 1926 maneuvers, Voronov distinguished himself commanding the artillery of the Belarusian military district. As a reward, he was granted permission to take the entrance examination for the Frunze Military Academy. In 1930, Voronov graduated from the academy. He became the commander of the artillery regiment of the 1st Moscow Rifle Division. In August 1932, Voronov was sent to Italy as part of the Soviet mission there. In April 1934, he was appointed Chief Military Commissar of the 1st Artillery School. In 1936, he was awarded the Order of the Red Star for his management at the school. In 1935, he served on the Soviet military mission to Italy for the second time, and was promoted to Kombrig on the 11th of November. In 1937, he was sent under the name Voltaire as an advisor to the Spanish Republicans, where he worked on the training of artillery units on the Madrid front. During his tour in Spain, Voronov was awarded the Order of Lenin and the Order of the Red Banner. In June 1937, Voronov returned to Moscow. He was promoted to Comcorps and replaced Comdiv N.M. Rogovsky as the chief of the artillery of the Red Army, who was later shot during the case of Trotskyist anti-Soviet military organization. On the 20th of June 1937, Voronov started work on the modernization of the Red Army artillery, and in November 1937 submitted a memorandum to Klimt Voroshilov on the modernization of the artillery. At the end of July 1938, Voronov went as part of a special commission of the People's Commissariat of Defense to test the combat training of the Far Eastern Military District during the Battle of Lake Kherson. In June 1939, he was sent to Khalkin Gol to lead the 1st Army Group's artillery during the battles of Khalkin Gol. For his actions during the battle, Voronov was awarded a Second Order of the Red Banner. In September 1939, Voronov commanded the Belarusian military district's artillery during the Soviet invasion of Poland. He was severely injured in a car accident and said his life was saved by a silver pen given to him by Dolores Ibarri in Spain. In November, Voronov inspected the troops of the Leningrad military district, in readiness for the Winter War. During the war, he led artillery units, mainly those of the 7th Army, and fought in the offensive against the Mannerheim Line. For his actions during the war, Voronov was awarded a Second Order of Lenin and was promoted to Commander Arms 2nd rank. On the 4th of June 1940, he was given the rank of Colonel General of the Artillery after the introduction of Red Army General Officers' ranks. Voronov led the Kiev Special Military District's artillery during the Soviet occupation of Bessarabia and northern Bukovina. An order of the People's Commissariat of Defense on the 13th of July abolished the position of Chief of the Artillery and introduced the position of First Deputy Chief of GRU. Voronov was appointed to this position, subordinate to Grigory Kulik. World War II. On the 19th of June 1941, Voronov was transferred to the post of Chief of the Main Directorate of Air Defense, who was now personally accountable to the People's Commissar of Defense. During the first days of the war on the Eastern Front, Voronov reinforced the air defense of Moscow. On the 19th of July, the post of Chief of the Artillery was restored and Voronov was appointed to the position. On the 20th of July, he was ordered organized anti-tank artillery during the Yelnya offensive. After returning to Moscow, Voronov, together with Leonid Govorov, developed detailed instructions on anti-tank tactics, which was soon sent to the troops as a Stavka directive. As part of the State Defense Committee, Voronov went to Leningrad to organize anti-tank defense and the artillery. Through the efforts of Voronov, the GRU became subordinate to the Chief of the Artillery. Voronov also set up an artillery headquarters, led by Ivan Susloporov. After his return in mid-September to Moscow, Voronov, at the request of the Leningrad Front's Military Council, was sent to Leningrad, where he assisted in the carrying out of counterattacks. After returning to Moscow in October, Voronov reviewed the readiness of the Moscow Reserve Front and also worked on the formation of anti-tank and artillery regiments intended for the defense of Moscow. In late October, Voronov was sent back to Leningrad to organize the front's artillery during the Sinyavino offensive in the area of the Nevsky Potashok. Voronov organized artillery production and the defense of the Road of Life until his return to Moscow on the 5th of December. He also met his father, who continued to stay in the city. Voronov worked on the supply, acquisition and coordination of artillery units in the areas of the winter campaign of 1941–42. In his report to Stalin of 28 February, Voronov raised the question of military air defense, which since November 1941 had remained without leadership. On the 2nd of June, by order of the People's Commissariat for Defense, all air defense units were subordinated to the front artillery commanders and the chief of the artillery. In early June, Voronov took part in the planning and conducting of operations on the left flank of the Western Front. In July, he went to Stalingrad to assist the retreating 62nd Army and 64th Army. During the Moscow Conference, Shaposhnikov, Voroshilov and Voronov represented the Soviet Union during talks with the British military delegation. In September, Voronov accompanied Alexander Vasilevsky on a tour of the Southwestern Front, Stalingrad Front and Don Front. Voronov began to plan the artillery barrage in Operation Uranus. After the approval of the plan for Operation Uranus, Voronov worked with the chiefs of artillery of the fronts and supervised the training of units to conduct the offensive. During the beginning of the operation, Voronov was in the command post of the 21st Army. On the 31st of October, Voronov issued a decree on the establishment of artillery divisions in Stavka Reserve. In late November, Voronov, Vasilevsky and Alexander Novikov visited the area of Operation Little Satin. From 16 to the 19th of December, Voronov coordinated the artillery of the Southwestern and Voronezh fronts. On the 19th of December, he was sent to the Don Front to aid in the planning and implementation of operations for the elimination of the surrounded German troops in Stalingrad. On the 10th of January 1943, after an artillery barrage, Operation Koltso was launched. For the operation, Voronov was awarded the Order of Suvarov First Class. On the 18th of January, he was promoted to Marshal of the Artillery. On the 31st of January, Friedrich Paula surrendered to Soviet troops and Voronov personally interrogated him. In early February, Voronov was sent to the Northwestern Front to assist with the planning and operation of the Demyansk offensive. In April, the Katyusha rocket launcher units were handed over to the chief of the artillery, but self-propelled artillery units were placed under command of tank units, despite Voronov's protests. From May to June, Voronov oversaw the formation of the first 5 breakthrough artillery corps, and on the 5th of July served as the representative for the commander of the Bryansk front, as well as checking the preparation of the artillery bombardment in the Battle of Kursk. On the 3rd of August, he was sent to the Western Front to monitor the planning and conduct of the Battle of Smolensk. On the 30th of August, Voronov was sent to the Kaliningrad Front. On the 20th of October, he coordinated the actions of the 1st Baltic Front, 2nd Baltic Front and Western Front. In early 1944, he had to resign from his position as a Stavka representative and return to Moscow for treatment of health issues. Voronov then helped redeploy ammunition and artillery to the Far Eastern Front. On the 21st of February, he was promoted to Chief Marshal of the Artillery. On the 20th of March 1944, Voronov was featured on the cover of Time magazine. Post-war in May 1946, Voronov began the establishment of the Academy of Artillery Sciences. He was also elected a deputy of the Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union. In 1950, he was released from his position and became the president of the Academy of Artillery Sciences, responsible for developing strategic nuclear weapons. In 1953, he was appointed chief of the Military Artillery Command Academy in Leningrad. In October 1958, transferred to the Group of Inspectors General of the Ministry of Defense due to health issues, where he was until his death. In 1963, Voronov published his memoirs, titled Or on Military Service. On the 7th of May 1965, he was awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union on the 20th anniversary of the end of World War II. On the 23rd of February 1968, a tumor was discovered and Voronov was operated on. On the 28th of February he died without regaining consciousness. Personal life. Voronov was an avid football fan and was a supporter of CSKA Moscow. He married Nina and had a son, Vladimir. Honors and awards. Voronov received the following Soviet awards: Hero of the Soviet Union, Order of Lenin 6 times, Order of the October Revolution, Order of the Red Banner 4 times, Order of Suvarov, First Class 3 times, Order of the Red Star, Medal for the Defense of Leningrad, Medal for the Defense of Stalingrad, Medal for the Defense of Moscow, Medal for the Victory over Germany in the Great Patriotic War 1941–1945, Jubilee Medal 20 Years of Victory in the Great Patriotic War 1941–1945, Medal for the Victory over Japan, Jubilee Medal XX Years of the Workers' and Peasants' Red Army, Jubilee Medal 30 Years of the Soviet Army and Navy, Jubilee Medal 40 Years of the Armed Forces of the USSR, Jubilee Medal 50 Years of the Armed Forces of the USSR, Medal in commemoration of the 800th anniversary of Moscow, Medal in commemoration of the 250th anniversary of Leningrad. Honorary weapons. He also received the following foreign awards: Order of Sukhbator, Order of Red Banner, Order of the Partisan Star, First Class, Order of National Liberation, Cross of Grunwald, First Class, Commander of the Order of Polonia Restituta. Nikolay Voronov is interred in the Kremlin Wall necropolis at the Red Square. Dates of rank. Voronov's promotion dates were as follows: Kombrig, the 26th of November 1935; Comcorps, the 20th of June 1937; Colonel General, the 7th of May 1940; Marshal of the Artillery, the 18th of January 1943; Chief Marshal of Artillery,